Okay, everyone, Coach Patrick here in Jersey Nation back with a slightly different podcast this week. This week, I want to talk to you not about training plans, not about fixing things, but talk to you about some fun. We're going to talk a little bit about training camps, and specifically, we're going to talk about our Blue Ridge Mountains training camp. Started back 10 years ago, 2009. This training camp was really sort of a gathering point for many of our athletes who lived in the North Carolina region. It was a time to come together, to build some early season fitness, and basically have fun, right? Get ready for the year. Over the course of the last 10 years, we've held this camp and we've grown it to as big as 40 athletes at a time, usually more around 15 to 20 athletes. And it's become sort of an annual tradition, almost a pilgrimage that people in the area and also from outside, from away, like myself here in Rhode Island, traveling down there to North Carolina to enjoy the beautiful scenery, great friends, good food, and everything about getting ready. So I want to share some of the little beginnings of this camp. So the cycling camp origin story inside Endurance Nation basically came from the realization that inside the triathlon space, we spend the most amount of our time on a bike. So anything we can do to improve the bike, if we can make a 5% gain on the bike, considering that it's 112 miles of 140.6 day, will have a significantly large percentage or an outsized impact on our day. So the stronger we get on the bike, the stronger we'll be on race day. And so when you try and think about how you're going to make yourself stronger on a bike, then you've got to sort of space out, well, what does that mean from week to week? What does it mean on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, Sundays? What does it mean, in June before an August race? What does it mean in May before an August race? And then April and March, start backing it up. And then become very specific, very precise. While that's very effective, in many cases, when we think about training specifically for a race, we're juggling multiple training priorities. We're trying to build run volume, but also build cycling volume and maintain cycling strength. On top of that, we're also spending time going back and forth to the pool, plus whatever else you've got going on in your life. That really adds up. And when you get into a space when you have multiple competing priorities happening simultaneously, that becomes very challenging. It makes the sport challenging for people who are beginners. The only advantage that experienced athletes have upon you is that they've been here before and they just know either what to expect, or they've made some changes or some improvements to the game. And a cycling training camp is one of those improvements. What we found was essentially we could take all the long rides that you had in a month. If a Saturday is your long ride and you've got 4 of those in a month, so you've got 4 long rides, we could take all 4 of those long rides and put them into a single training camp. And we could inject all of this training stress, all of this volume into your system in a very focused manner. Because it's on the bike, you can recover from it really quickly. And you can go back to your normally scheduled life within a couple days. And as you reintegrate to doing your multidisciplinary training approach, adding swimming in and getting back to running, etc., downstream 2, 3, 4 weeks later, you'll see this huge boost in your fitness coming off of this cycling work. And so for us inside the team, these cycling camps have become part of how we train. Now, when you use our training plans, you'll see that we have challenge days, specifically long days on the bike. You'll see that some of our weeks are what we call camp weeks, where we have back-to-back long ride days. That focused volume on the bike really makes a difference. And if you have the opportunity to do this at a camp, it's super helpful as well. And so that was essentially what we set out to do in 2009, was to say, how do we add some volume? And let's go somewhere that's fun. And we chose the Blue Ridge Mountains, not only because we had athletes in the area who were familiar with the course, but because the parkway itself offers a unique space to train. A road essentially built along the spine of the Blue Ridge Mountains, and by the government, it's got some specific notes on it where there's no grade that's steeper up or down than 8%, I believe, or maybe even 6%. That all the turns are wide and sweeping. There's no sharp, abrupt turns, 180-degree turns. The roads are in decent quality, and traffic, at least during the week, is really quiet, especially when we go, which is in May. And this allows us to do a lot of great work and great training in a space that's not only beautiful with all of the vistas and the views and the overlooks that are there, but in an environment that's also safe and supportive as well. And so we decided to go down there and do the camp down there. And we basically have evolved to a place now where we will do some rides on the parkway, and then we do some rides off the parkway, because there's great riding in the Boone area, Asheville area, and the spaces in between, where we can start on the parkway, go across the viaduct, for example, by Linville Falls, and then drop down and go somewhere else and see some great roads off the side that are not only exciting, not only have great places to stop, Mass Gap, General Store, anybody, but also give us the opportunity to explore different, more challenging hills. We can head over and do some crazy climbs, climbs that were part of US Pro Tours back in the day, that people want to go back and test themselves on. You can test themselves on proven roads, you can test yourself on unproven roads. It's all available to you here in North Carolina. And so we even have evolved now to the point where we've got professional SAG from Black Bear Cycling. So we've got a vehicle that follows us around and offers support to people, nutrition, and manages our aid stations as well, which is really helpful. It just generally made it a lot more fun, especially now as we have more and more people coming back. Again, you get that sense of family, but also people who've ridden some of the routes before, familiar with the area, can really be helpful to the newer people. But let's not miss out on some of the stories, like the time in our first year where we rented a house very close to the Parkway. We basically ride up to the Parkway and then ride. And so one of the key climbs that we do every year is head down to the highest point on the East Coast, Mount Mitchell, and we do the climb. And it's the highest point on the East Coast. I know people talk about Mount Washington, crazy weather. It's crazy weather, but Mount Mitchell's higher. And it's a great ride. What we didn't anticipate, however, because we said we were like over 100 miles away, and with the map being set up what it was and GPS what it was back in the day, it didn't look that bad from here until the base of the mountain, until we started climbing. And you don't start climbing at the base of the mountain itself. It's actually on the Parkway, it's back a bit. So you've got about 18 or 20 miles of some flavor of climbing, and the last 5 or 6 really being, entering the park and doing some serious climbing to the top. Well, we didn't anticipate how challenging the terrain would be from the beginning of our ride until we got to the start of that climb and then what it would mean. And so we started out riding, and of course we all started out riding together from the same place. So that means across an 8-hour day, we were spread out all over, and our support folks couldn't keep up with us. Back in 2009, it was not the professional team that we have now. It was a brutal ride. I want to say that by the time I got to the park entrance, I had already ridden 110 miles. There was 6 miles to go to the top. I had already flat out nearly fallen off my bike 4 times from just dehydration and lack of calories. There's not a lot of stops up on the Parkway itself, especially when we go early before it really opens up, and which is why the SAG vehicle is critical. So I'd already bonked 4 times and was exhausted. And in fact, I didn't even attempt to go up to the top of the mountain. I just lay down on the grass at the entrance and waited for the car to come and pick me up and take me home because I was done. So it ended up being just almost a 120-mile day. And I want to say close to 14 or 15,000 feet of climbing in 8 hours. It was brutal. And so we fixed that now by modifying our ride to Mitchell, by starting a little sooner, by driving down and getting into a place where we could be successful by training off of it, and jumping right in and saying, okay, this is a place where we can do the ride and we can be successful. People can just ride to Mitchell, hop in the van. People can ride to Mitchell and descend and hop in the van. We got lots of options for people. But it always takes me back to that first day. And back then in those days, nutrition was all self-provided. So we would come home from this 8-hour ride and then it was time to cook. We had to go make sure we had food and start cooking, and people are hanging out. So we had the social aspect and the cooking side, but definitely made things a little bit harder. Now that we stay at a hotel, we've actually partnered with several local restaurants and breweries to make sure that we've got outstanding calories and nutrition options, so that people can eat to their heart's content and also socialize around it. And that's really the benefit for me of the cycling camp, is that you can get up in the morning, right? Don't have to worry about swim, bike, run. You're only worried about one of them, only about the bike. We're going to get ourselves ready to bike. We're going to go out, warm up together. Then we're going to hit some climbs and ride what we want. We do the whole ride. We're done for most days except for the Mitchell day by like 2 o'clock. Come back, shower. By 3 o'clock, you're done. And you can go explore Boone by Appalachian State University. There's a fantastic art scenery there, music scenery as well. Or just go for hikes, etc. if you bring your significant other. Some people like to go out and start socializing right away and explore some of these breweries for happy hour, and then we'll go out for our team dinner, etc. So you end up getting that perfect balance of time to train, and then also the social team time and time to recover as well, because we're going to go out tomorrow and we're going to do it again. And we don't expect people to kind of go out and hit it at every single workout, every single day, because we have the van there. You can always hop in the van or skip a hill or skip ahead. But it is an opportunity for you to do as much work as you want to do to help you get ready for your season, whatever your goals may be. And if you haven't been in the Blue Ridge Mountains, you really want to get out there because it's a fantastic, beautiful place. Your pictures will drive your friends crazy, and you yourself will be impressed with what you once thought was a hill is no longer a hill. And you didn't have to go all the way across the country or go out to the Rockies to do it. All you had to do is stay right here on the East Coast. It's drivable for people from New York over to Michigan, all the way down to Florida. They all end up driving in. It's kind of centrally located there and very easy to fly to Charlotte and then hop on out to get to where we are in Boone, only an hour and a half drive away. Some other elements that are great about cycling camps that are really important is putting you on your road bike. If you're a triathlete, tri bikes are great, but riding a road bike is super fun. Spending a lot of time on a road bike helps you get better at it. And it's a nice change in pace from being on a tri bike, looking at the world horizontally and focused more on speed than you are on power output or bike handling skills, etc. So it's a great way for you to kind of grow in that space. You also get to ride with a group. And for many of us, we've been riding indoors, whether you use Zwift or not. Riding indoors is definitely not a very exciting game, and being able to break out of that, ride outside, catch up with people, tell stories, make some new friends, makes riding so much more enjoyable for the social side. And also from a competitive side as well, trying to stay with someone who's a little bit faster than you or helping someone who's a little bit slower than you, it makes the dynamic go much faster, makes the riding in and of itself much more enjoyable. And I cannot overstate the importance of riding in new places. You've got your roots, you've got the places you love to ride in your town, and that's all great. But getting out of that zone and going to a place like Boone, got 2 bike shops there who can help us out. We got a fantastic stag team to Black Bear Cycling, Black Bear Adventures, I should say. It's in a great place where you just have everything you need. All you got to do is show up with your bike, an open mind, a bunch of cycling clothes, and we'll kind of take you out there and get ready to rock. If you mention this podcast, if you're interested, if you do go in May, you can head over to our website at mile18inc.com, which hosts all of our camps. That's www.mile18inc.com, mile18inc.com. Find our cycling camps, check on the Blue Ridge one, sign on up. And if you mention the podcast when we talk to you, we'll take $100 off that price. We have 10 people signed up for 2020, which means we've got room for 5 or 10 more. We're definitely looking for some new folks to come in and explore it, whether you're on the team and you're a new member, you're someone on the outside looking in, or if you're someone who just wants 4 days of completely supported, outstanding cycling in the Blue Ridge Mountains, we got you covered. You can do as much work as you want. You can suck a wheel or you can try and crush us all. It'd be great to meet you and get to know you and share the roads with you. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you have found this podcast interesting in terms of the value of cycling, that you're interested in exploring the avenue of adding cycling to your season in a compressed block, and whether or not you join us at a camp or you find another one or you make your own mini camp, I hope you explore your personal limits with cycling and use it as a tool to make yourself faster and stronger. Thanks, folks, for tuning in. Coach Patrick signing off from another Coach Podcast videocast. I'll see you guys online or at the races.